In the last 4 years, we've bought 6 investment properties, all without an LLC. And this was on purpose.
But 2022 is a different year, and we plan on taking our portfolio to the next level. So we just started our very first LLC.
Why did we wait so long? And why did we start one now? Let's talk about it.
If you guys are new here, we are Lauren and Kyle, and we invest in long-term buy and hold rental properties in New Jersey. And we've been DIYing our way to financial freedom, and we've been taking you guys along with us the entire time.
We just opened up our first LLC, and this may come as a surprise to those who've been following us along for a while.
We shared this information on Instagram a little while ago, and we got a lot of questions. So we're going to walk through both our thought process and the actual process it takes to start an LLC.
Real quick, before we dive in, please do not take any of this video as legal or tax advice. This is just simply what we're doing, and we're just sharing it with you. We are by no means experts and are still learning along just like you. So let's just dive right in.
The first question we always get asked is, why aren't we buying properties in an LLC to begin with? And this is a very complicated answer, and there are a lot of reasons behind this, but we'll share the main ones.
The first was financing. We started investing with the purchase of a 2-family house hack, and the main benefit of the house hack is leveraging your primary residence as an investment.
When you house hack, you get to purchase an investment property with owner-occupant financing, which allows you to get into a property with a lower down payment, a better interest rate, and just with better terms in general.
If we bought our first house hack in an LLC, it would have been more expensive and more complicated transaction, and thus negating most of the benefits of the house hack. Up until this point, 3 of our 6 properties were or are house hacks, so LLCs didn't seem like the best choice for us.
The second big reason we postponed getting an LLC was we didn't really feel like it added anything extra to our strategy. And I know that can be a very controversial statement, but hear us out on this. There are 3 drivers behind having an LLC, and those are taxes, anonymity, and asset protection.
Again, we are by no means tax experts, but we did consult with many tax professionals, and they all confirmed that we can still deduct everything that you can deduct in an LLC in our personal names through a Schedule E.
If you keep your books correctly, you can write off renovation expenses, management software, mileage, travel and meals that are business related, and every other deduction you would normally take with an LLC.
Moving on to anonymity. Many choose to form an LLC for identity protection, which is valid, but we have no interest in hiding who we are. Especially when we're house hacking, we want the tenants to know that we're the owners. We feel being transparent in the relationship really leads to a more positive experience than trying to lie and say we're just property managers.
And this thought may change as we grow our portfolio, but it's how we feel right now. And also, with the information available online, anyone can easily find the owners of an LLC anyway, and so we don't really feel like that reason alone is reason enough.
We do it every time we're driving for dollars or creating a mailer. And now, asset protection. The protection that comes into play with an LLC only happens after you've been sued. That really doesn't sit well with us, and we'd rather have a proactive approach than a reactive one. To mitigate risk, we choose to implement actions that prevent us from getting sued in the first place.
This is everything from working with licensed professionals and contractors, carrying the proper insurance, ensuring we renovate everything to code and address any repairs or issues immediately, to having solid leases, heavily screening tenants, and following the same systems and processes with every property and never cutting corners, and documenting everything.
Now, we aren't naive. We know even after doing all that, problems can still occur, but being proactive about how we run our portfolio really helps us sleep better at night than running a loose operation and hoping my LLC will protect me in the end.
On top of running a tight ship, we also have an umbrella insurance policy that covers us personally and all of our properties, which we highly recommend both with or without an LLC.
Okay, now that we just spent the last 5 minutes explaining why we didn't have an LLC, let's transition into why we just opened one.
The first of a few reasons is our DTI. DTI is your debt to income ratio. The easy formula for this is the sum of your monthly debt payments divided by your gross monthly income. And when you own your properties in your personal name, the debt sits in your name as well.
And while we aren't running into any issues getting loans in our names in regards to the 10 conventional loan limit, we are noticing that our DTI is getting a little off balanced. Even though we both have full-time W-2 jobs and are cash flowing with every property, it still adds up over time and affects that ratio.
And while I know we said this will be our last house hack, we do want to leave the option open to do it again. And as we mentioned earlier, a house hack would be purchased in our personal names. And then hopefully after that, we'll buy a single family home. So thinking ahead, we just don't want our rental property debt to cause us any issues qualifying for these future purchases.
The next reason is financing and funding options. But wait, didn't we just say earlier that buying in your personal name offers better financing and terms? Technically, yes, but over the last few years, we've learned about other financing options that aren't as good as owner-occupant financing, but still really have their benefits.
For example, as we acquire more investment-specific properties, having an LLC gives us different options for funding. One of the biggest being hard money and just other non-traditional lenders. So these loans are still secured by the property, but they can usually close quicker and have less restrictions than a conventional loan and fund properties that traditional banks maybe can't.
Also, unlike conventional commercial loans, these loans have 30-year term options and decent interest rates. The kicker is most hard money and private, real estate focused lenders actually require the property be in an LLC. You ever see properties listed for sale, but they're only accepting cash or hard money offers? This is where having an LLC, and thus the option to use hard money, comes in handy. So by having the option to buy both in our personal names and an LLC, gives us more lending options.
The next reason is starting that 2-year tax return requirement that's often needed to qualify for traditional loans and lines of credit in the future. We don't need this just yet, but kind of as we mentioned before, we're kind of thinking about our future selves. But as we look to leave our W-2 jobs in the future, having those 2-year tax returns in our business showing a profit and thus showing income will just make it easier to qualify for loans in the future.
And we'll wrap up the list with asset protection and legitimacy. We're at the point where our rental properties aren't just a side hustle and are now a full-fledged business and thus needs to be treated as such. Pairing up with the asset protection that LLCs offer with our already in place proactive practices will give us a nice, well-rounded strategy.
So once we decided starting an LLC was a good choice for us, we began the fun process. We are members of Landlord Law School, which is an online course that teaches investors how to legally protect, grow, and run their real estate investing business. And lucky for us, there is a whole section on this setup specifically. So we just went back to the course and watched this part a few times, and it just walked us through every step of the way.
This included choosing an entity, which for us was an LLC. Choosing an entity name, getting an EIN, registering with the state, and creating and signing an LLC operating agreement.
Once all that was complete, we went to the bank to open up separate checking and savings accounts along with an LLC specific credit card. The actual cost of opening the LLC was less than $150.
With an LLC hot off the press and a new credit card in hand, now what?
Our long-term game plan is to transfer every property into the LLC when it's done. And what we mean by that is after it's been completely renovated, tenants have been placed, and refinanced. I would say that only 2 of our properties can be categorized as done right now because many of the others have inherited tenants in at least one of the units, and we just haven't been able to renovate those yet.
So our current idea is to refi one done property into the LLC and transfer the deed to free up some of our personal debt, and then purchase any non-house hack or personal properties into the LLC moving forward. For now, we're only going to have one LLC, but we'll cap the value in that LLC at a certain amount that matches with our risk tolerance.
All right, guys, we shared a lot with you. So drop a comment below with your thoughts on LLCs. Did we start one too late? Too early? Did we miss anything? I'm sure we did, so let us hear it.
Tell us all your thoughts, and we'll see you guys on the next one.